Hi, this is Bala Parthasarathi, and welcome to our podcast, Intelligence Unscripted.
Welcome to our podcast, Ryan. Before we talk about anything, first tell us where you are.
As you know, I'm in a small island called Mauritius. I moved here a couple of years ago. And so we're a fully remote company, Bala. I didn't think this was going to come up as the first part of the conversation, but I'm in Mauritius. But as my co-founder likes to say, we really live in the cloud. Work is on the cloud. The team is fully remote. Business is in the US. Team is across the world. And so I find myself living in the cloud physically and metaphorically most of the time. But currently I am physically stationed in Mauritius for now.
You've already made me extremely jealous, but let's get started. Then we've known each other for a few years now. Would love to know what you've been up to. What does the company do? I know you've raised a kick-ass round of $10 million from Bloom, led by Bloom recently. Just incredible. But in your own words, what do you guys do?
No, thank you very much. And thank you so much for having me here, Bala. So, the name Interview Kickstart in some way explains what we do. In some way, it doesn't explain what we do. Put very simply, we have become the go-to platform for working tech professionals who want to work at top companies, right? We've built this company on a very simple insight. And that insight is, for the last few years and moving forward, cutting edge innovation, cutting edge technology, cutting edge careers are all coming out of top companies. And so we saw this massive gap in the market where we didn't see company-oriented learning as a platform being available. And that's what Interview Kickstart set out to become. And our secret sauce is essentially the fact that all our courses are designed, developed, and delivered by very experienced technologists, hiring managers, recruiters, tech leads, based largely out of the Bay Area, and people who work at FANG or FANG Plus companies. We have about 500 to 600 instructors, the who's who of the Valley on our instructor pool. And our core belief is that companies are now becoming the new universities. And so that's what we do. So if anybody wants to up level in their career, move to a top company, we are the place to go to. 95% of our business is in the US. We do have a fledgling presence in India as well. So that's kind of what we do, who we are, and why we exist.
Awesome. And you're profitable as well.
Yeah, we're very profitable. I think, on a lighter note, now I will say that Bloom is our investor, one of our investors, but Bloom is still not the primary investor, right? And even till today, and it's a counterintuitive thing to say, but our investors are our customers, right? And that's how we have always thought about the business. When people used to ask me, who are your investors? I should say my customers are my investors, and they would laugh and they would think it's a pretty cute thing to say. And I was joking, but much like you, right? They have built a profitable business. The best investors are your customers. And so we focused always on being a profitable company. And I think that is what Bloom appreciated, which is why we raised this round. We've continued to be profitable, right? So currently the money is sitting in our FD, but we will put it to good use. But profitability is at the heart of how we think about our business.
Awesome. Now you made everybody else jealous on two counts. First, it was only Mauritius. Now it's Mauritius and profitable. And of course, fundraising in a very, very tough funding environment. So congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Bala.
Back to something you touched on. You're going between the Valley and India. And
That's right.
Specifically, what do you see with respect to the conversations around AI?
It's a great question. I think they're poles apart, which is really what is interesting. And I'm sure they will converge at some point of time. But let me put it a bit poetically, right? When I go to India, so just to put it in perspective, guys, I travel to the Bay Area in the US once a quarter. I'm there for a few weeks because of work. And I also travel to India once a quarter. And I'm also there a few weeks, because of work. Effectively, the key difference is this. When I'm in India, I see hardly any conversation with AI in it at the moment. When I'm in the US, I see hardly any conversation without the word AI in it at the moment. And so it is almost at two extremes. And it's peculiar because this was not the case for many of, for the past few years. We had caught up quite significantly in India, but I'm sure we will catch up. And I think it's just a matter of time. India has unbelievable talent. We're very well placed to do a lot of this. We are seeing some really good companies come out of India as well. But today there is a significant divergence at this point of time.
Why do you think that is, Ryan?
I think there's a little bit of historical context. A lot of cutting edge innovation in AI is coming out of two places in the world, the US and China. These are the two leading, hubs for AI innovation. And I think a lot of that is driving the conversation a lot more in the US, because that is where a lot of cutting edge innovation has already happened. I think in the recent past, the big reason is that OpenAI, Perplexity, Anthropic, Cognition, Cohere, all of these new cutting edge foundational startups, NVIDIA with the GPUs, they're all based in the US. And so I think that is one of the reasons. I also think, and this is my own suspicion, I think because of the funding winter in the last few years, I think in India in particular, we have been hit a bit badly. And so I think one of the reasons everybody's a bit cautious is because of that. One unfortunate thing that I do hear from time to time, and I actually think that it's a horrible comparison, is that people compare crypto and AI, right? And that could be another reason. I think there's a big difference. AI is a general purpose technology. It's a reinvention of everything, not just tech. It's a reinvention of everything. And so I think everybody's going to start talking about it soon.
But one of the things about the counterpoints about AI is like, hey, it looks like a bubble with inflated very quickly. Look at the valuations and, everything is in like billions. I mean, do you think there is a bubble here or not?
So I think let's separate two things, right? I think it's important to separate the two things. One is the technology and the capabilities that AI brings. And the other is funding excitement and what could potentially be a bubble, right? I think there is a lot of excitement around AI right now. And there is a lot of dry powder that a lot of big funds are sitting on, and they need to deploy them. AI is a place where a lot of deployment is happening because it is potentially a transformational technology. So in the funding context, who knows? It may or may not be a bubble, right? But definitely on the technology side, I don't think this is a bubble at all. I think there is something genuinely unique going on here, right? There is a reason why ChatGPT became the fastest product to 1 million users and then 100 million users and so on and so forth. You see some of those graphs, it's incredible. It is very disruptive technology, right? It is giving us the ability to do things that we never knew existed. And we're talking about AI, but it's really a wave of 4 or 5 big technologies coming together. AI is the tip of that. And if I may, just a little bit of a digression, Bala, I think the big 5 technologies that are coming out that are going to reshape our world is AI, synthetic biology, robotics, nanotechnology, and quantum computing, right? These are 5 things that are going to be completely transformational, obviously led by AI. So could be a funding bubble, but technology-wise, no. I mean, there are some very interesting pieces which talks about general purpose technologies and things that fundamentally change human existence. There are, I think, 24 of these from the time humans first walked, right from the first one being fire, then the wheel, steam, internet. AI is one of those 24, and I truly believe it is one. So technology-wise, no, I think this is a bigger disruptor than anything we have seen. Closest I can think of is it's akin to the internet.
It's a good point. Valuation might be a bubble, markets go up and down, but it's real. And I also, I broadly agree with you. Like when people compare crypto and both, I point out that, the only use of crypto was crypto speculation, right? Like people buy a Bitcoin or Ethereum, but that's like a speculative instrument. You're not using a blockchain. I still haven't used blockchain in any sort of large scale way, and nobody has told me what they're using it for. Whereas I use ChatGPT every day. It's just like one of those things you can see here and touch, not just a bunch of things talking about why distributed ledgers are better.
And crypto may still end up being something really valuable, and blockchain might still end up being something valuable. So maybe also early to comment on that, but I think in terms of mass appeal, the AI appeal is much more pervasive, at least right now.
So Ryan, I want to talk about how you use AI in your business, but I also want to talk about how you help people get AI jobs, because that's kind of a unique vantage point you have. But let's start with the second one. Now, AI itself is old, as we know, but Gen AI is new. Where do you see the demand? Like, where is the shortage? And how are you guys helping to shape this kind of supply demand?
Great set of questions, Anna. I think in the short answer, there is a shortage everywhere. Okay. But let's actually, let's actually break this down and allow me to step back for a second. The premise here is that AI is a general purpose technology. And when you are a general purpose technology like electricity, you affect everything. Okay. AI has been a buzzword for some time. We don't really think about this, but we use AI throughout the day, right? The restaurants that are recommended to you on Swiggy is based on recommendation. The Netflix show that you watch or the Prime show that you watch recommended to you. Google throws up ads based on AI, right? Your Facebook feed, your Instagram feed, TikTok no longer in India. It's all AI based. The new flavor of AI is generative AI, right? Which was November 2022, and that has sparked the next set of revolution. So given that general purpose technology, I think the first point I want to make is that there is a shortage across the board. I think LinkedIn or one of these guys pointed out the fact that there is a 20 million shortfall in the number of engineers required, right? AI engineers. 20 million, right? It's for AI professionals, sorry, not just AI engineers, right? Now, and there are all of these big numbers. There is a $350 million investment in AI expected from the top 3-4 countries in the next 2-3 years. We're talking huge number. A very interesting, fun stat. If you look at the number of times AI is mentioned on an earnings call for the Russell 3000, it spiked like crazy in the last year, right? Because shareholders are voting with their money. They're communicating that message to boards, to CEOs, to CTOs. So there is a need across the board. Now, if you think about where, but let's peel the onion layer by layer, right? And so I want to peel the onion in 2 ways. One, what types of capabilities are missing? And secondly, where do we expect the demand to come from in terms of company? Because I think the second set is very unique to AI. On the first set, which is effectively, where is value going to accrue, right? Maybe put it that way. Highest value is going to accrue to what we call the data set, which is machine learning engineers, data scientists, data engineers, and data analysts. That's what we call the data pack, because data drives all of those domains. Think of those as builders, scientists, enablers for the new avatar of software, which is broadly being called software 2.0. All of software is getting rewritten with AI, right? Now, in that world, these 4, and primarily AI engineers, is where the most value accrues. And that is where there is a massive shortfall of talent right now. That shortfall is not going to go away anytime soon for 2 key reasons. 1, it takes a year to mint a machine learning engineer. 2, the demand for this is going to keep increasing. So supply is not going to come in to fulfill that demand for some time. And when demand outstrips supply, the one thing that we all know happens is that the rent goes up. In this case, price being compensation goes up. So that is where you go to get massive accrual of your time. However, think about machine learning, data scientists, data engineers as the tip of the pyramid. Because as you build new capabilities around these folks, you do need the supporting cast. So think of the first few as the lead actor, right? In the stage, right? All the world's a stage, right? These guys are on the stage as the primary actor. The supporting cast.
Very nice Shakespeare reference, by the way. I don't think GPT would have done that.
The supporting cast is the existing engineers who now need to get AI enabled. So I'm going to, throw out something that might be a bit controversial, which is, if you are not at a bare minimum getting AI enabled in the next couple of years, you are absolutely borrowing time from the future at this point of time, right? Because you are going to get redundant. So the way I would think about this is, if you can get to the value capturers, the top value capturers, which is ML, data science, data engineering, etc. If not, stay in your own role, but get AI enabled, right? So that's where I think learn generative AI skills, learn ML ops, learn how you can leverage AI in your current role. What are the tools out there? How can you become much more efficient, right? How can you take advantage of this amazing technology, which is generative AI, to do your work much more efficiently? Very interesting stat, Bala. Indeed recently came out with a report that said 1 in 4 jobs that is being posted today for software engineers includes the word generative AI or AI in it. Already 1 in 4, right? This is clearly the hottest area. AI is the hottest area in recruiting right now. The second part of it is, I would say, more nuanced and less obvious, which is that if you look at AI and the coming wave as a technological paradigm shift, something very counterintuitive is happening, which is historically when we've seen paradigm shifts in technology, they lend themselves towards startups, right? When you go back to, let's say, the chip, the Intel chip, right? Mobile, internet, you look at people who dominated in those areas. They were people who did not exist before that. There was no Amazon before the internet. There was no Google before the internet, right? Microsoft is one that has dominated in both eras. But in general, all the big companies today did not exist before internet. Many of them did not exist before mobile. They were new. They were not incumbents. AI is the opposite. AI actually, at least starting off the first part of AI, it disproportionately benefits incumbents for two reasons. For three reasons actually. One, it costs a lot to build AI capabilities, GPUs. NVIDIA is a multi-trillion-dollar company as a result, right? So you need a lot of money, big companies. Two, the fuel of ML is data. Who has the data? The big companies that have billions of users. Three, which is very interesting, you'll appreciate this as a VC, AI, Bala, does not bring with it a new distribution leg. Internet bought a new distribution leg. Mobile bought a new distribution leg. And so the entrenched players had an innovator's dilemma question. Should I kill my existing distribution, go to the new distribution or not? With AI, so far, we have not seen any new distribution. And so the jobs are also coming from the larger companies, the well-entrenched companies, not as much in startups. That could also be a reason why you are not seeing as much talk of AI in the startup ecosystem. Even outside tech, it is the larger food manufacturing companies, the larger industrial companies that are better placed to leverage AI. And this is counterintuitive compared to the last few waves that we've seen, right? And hopefully that makes sense. But that's where I think the opportunities are, both in terms of roles and in terms of companies.
That's fascinating. And you're right. I think the first innings, clearly the large companies are one. My question to you is this. Is that going to be true with the second inning? So, for example, just to give you a counter, play devil's advocate. Perplexity, you touched on, did not exist, right? And now I'm using Perplexity instead of Google, right? And who would have thunk Google, right? And Google is a verb, unimaginable. They invented transformers. So, are there other perplexities that we're going to see? Are you seeing it when you're going to the valley? Are you seeing the shoots of, now first innings, large companies, because they had the overwhelming data advantage, they had the money to train GPUs and so on, train their models and so on and so forth. Do you think there could be a second innings for startups?
I think so, but I think, let me explain where I think they will come. So the software, the new stack, Bala, has four components. So keep it very simple. At the bottom, you have compute, which is GPUs. That's dominated today by NVIDIA, a little bit by Google. And Sam Altman wants to raise some multiple trillion to do that. And so power to him. The next layer is availability of that, which is essentially the cloud, right? GCP, Azure, AWS. And there, the big companies are doing very interesting things. They're investing in the up and coming startups. 4 billion, Amazon just looked at Anthropic, but a lot of this is in the form of cloud credit, right? So it's a nice circular, it's like paying you money to pay me money. Right? The layer on top of that is essentially closed or open source models, okay? And then potentially access through Hugging Face, etc. Right on top is the application layer. My sense is the first wave has been won by the large companies, compute, access, foundational model. Very difficult for me to imagine that new players will come in the foundational model space. I mean, you have Mistral, you have a bunch of others on the open source, but I've been known to be wrong more often than I'm right? But I would say less likely. On the application side, for sure, there will be a lot of startups that are coming on the AI application side, which we are yet to see. You are starting to see the, initial set, like you have Jarvis and you have a bunch of others, but Harvey.ai, etc. There will be a bunch of applications built on top of the existing AI stack. That is where I think startups are going to be well positioned because they are close to the customer. They solve for a particular problem. They'll tie in things together. But foundational areas, I think, very difficult.
And do you think that's an opportunity for India in the play in the application space?
For sure. India has two amazing opportunities. I mean, there are many amazing opportunities, but two in particular that I see. One is in the application space. A lot of it could be vernacular, things like that. But in general, I think on the application space, there is a bunch of opportunities for India. There is also the opportunity around new kind of services companies, right? I think that is, we talked about it before the chat today. I think Infosys, TCS, everybody's thinking about this, right? And I'm sure that there are going to be people who understand how to build those companies, who then leave to try and start new age Gen AI first tech services companies. They will have to solve the selling challenge, which is what the Infosys and the TCS of the world have done, which is no small task. And Nandan would know more about this than most. But I'm sure that there are people who have those capabilities who will come together. And I would not be surprised to see new age, very large services companies coming out of India doing this. And I think there is where India has a very, very good opportunity.
Application and services makes total sense. Right? Excellent points. But let me ask you this: how are you using AI? Like personally, what are you doing first, and then how does Kickstart with AI? Like, what do you guys use it for?
So let me take this question separately. I use AI as a thought partner. AI has now become my starting point for most things that I am thinking about. Right? It could be something as silly as I'm supposed to be going out for dinner this evening with some friends, and so I will go to GPT and say, "Hey, 4 friends heading out for dinner. This is what I want to do over dinner. What kind of restaurants do you think make sense?" Right? And that's tight because GP is not connected to the internet, so can't give you friends. I will do that, and I will use Perplexity as the other extreme, right? When I want to do a search, but I want to do a search with some help, right? So I recently used Perplexity saying, "Hey, I have to do a presentation for X, explaining Interview Kickstart. Here are the things that I want to talk about. Here are things that make sense. Can you help me with some data to substantiate my points? And can you put this into a format?" Right? So I'll use it for stuff like this. I also use it to solve problems, right? So if I want to take the presentation example, I will go and say, "Now help me make this into a really good presentation by telling me what are tools out there, Gamma, etc., etc." And so I'm using this as a thought partner, as well as a member of the founding team, right? Or let's say founder's office, and just a buddy, right? Invariably I go and strangely enough, I go to GPT most of the time, but I'm trying to use the others. I've started to use Gemini. I've started to use Perplexity. These are the 3. I tried using Inflection Pi, but I not found it as compelling for my use case, right? And so that's how I use it. I think it's a bit like a fingerprint. Everybody uses it differently. You could use it for this podcast and say, come up with a bunch of great questions for somebody from Interview Kickstart, right? Now, who knows? Maybe you did do that, Bala. I'm not sure.
And I have a video simulation. How do you know you're talking to me?
You don't know. That's right. We are all part of a large simulation, right? We don't even know what to. Yes, exactly. Right. Why am I here? Am I really here? That's the fun part. How are we using it internally? I think we did a couple of really good things in hindsight. One, we did something really fun. Last year, we called an all hands and we said, "Guys, we've got something very interesting to announce, and we'd love for everybody to be present." Everybody was there. And we said, "Okay, great. In the next 2 weeks, everybody in the company is going to do these generative AI courses. You have 14 days. Everybody needs to do this. And if you don't do it, we will put up the list of people who've not done it. Nobody's being forced, nothing. Everybody did it." That's changed the way we work dramatically. One area where that has changed the way we work massively is content, Bala. With a really small number of people, we produce a large amount of content, right? Leveraging GPT. We use it in our go-to-market to come up with alternative ad titles. We use it for testing. We use it for emails, whole bunch of things, right? Part 2 of that is what we are going through now, which is we are looking at documenting all our processes and say, where can we use technology to enhance those processes? Can we use generative AI for customer acquisition, customer communication, internally, student, blah, 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 right? We have had a very interesting philosophical thought. And the philosophical thought is, when it comes to hiring, don't jump to hire people. First, jump to hiring tools, leveraging generative AI. So if somebody comes for a role, the first thing they have to tell us is, why can't a tool or a generative AI application solve for that? And so we are forcing the team to think about using tools instead of just expanding in terms of people, right? We believe that a few, small set of people doing great work leads to phenomenal outcomes, right? And so we're trying to leverage a lot of tools as part of our key process. And finally, I think one of the things that we want to do, and without revealing too much, is that we want to leverage this actively we are working to leverage this actively as part of our teaching experience, because we have a lot of data.
One thing you mentioned is like, whenever you hire first, instead of hiring people, you first look for tools. But let me ask you on that, right? So we are starting to enter the era of software agent, autonomous software agent. We saw Devin, which, literally everybody. Autodev just launched that. Five Guys, Codium just launched. A whole bunch of people are launching these agents. Obviously, they're very 1.0 kind of product. But if you fast forward 3.0, 3 years later, the 3.0 product, what will it be? Do you think they're going to replace actual engineer? Is that a threat to your business, actually? Because you're the crux of all of this.
So I think, first of all, like you said, they're very far from where they need to be to replace engineers. And just to deliver what they're saying they will deliver will probably take a couple of years, right? But it's an interesting trajectory, right? I don't think that, if you step back and you look at the market at large, Bala, I think within the market, there will be some jobs that will be threatened for sure.
What kind of
But
jobs?
at an overall, I would say lower end jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lower end jobs, jobs that involve more, let's say, mundane work, right? In tech, right? A lot of those are going to be threatened. But what we've seen historically is when things like this come about, it expands the market massively, right? And that, allow me to give you a very simple example. We think of generative AI and generative AI tools as being new things that are coming out that are going to completely destroy the ecosystem. Fact of the matter is, go back, let's take an example even further away. Let's go back 30 years, right? When Excel launched, everybody was like, oh my God, is this going to destroy all accountants, all analysts, everybody who is in consulting? My God, you can do these things now with a press of a button. Wow, pivot tables, that's now, in everybody's lexicon. What did it do? It exploded that segment because it enabled many more use cases, many more people came in. Technology unlocked a completely different level. So, let's use a video game analogy. I think the tools are going to unlock a very different layer, which will bring in more people. The skill sets will be different, and you will need to up level, which is the phrase we use, to participate in that, because the skill sets that might be required are new. But at a market level, I would expect there to be more versus less software engineering over the next 2 years, doing far more things. The second reason I believe this, one is the historical paradigm, is that top tech companies are freaking greedy as hell, right? They just want to drive more shareholder value and they want to go into more and more and more areas, right? This unlocks things like digital healthcare. We take something like Harvey.ai, which is an LLM for law. That's a completely new area. Driverless cars, right? There is going to be a lot more use for this audience. Now, let me link this back to the question you asked just before this, which I was not able to answer, which is, how are we enabling people to become AI engineers or get AI enabled? We have a bunch of courses, right? So we have what's called the Switch Up course, which is you switch up to becoming an AI engineer. And obviously the name is self-explanatory. You're switching up because you're up leveling. That's a 1-year course that is designed by people from the top AI companies in the world. Google, Meta, OpenAI, right? By people who have built those cutting edge platforms. They are also teaching those courses. So you're learning from the horse's mouth, right? Micro projects, capstone projects, curriculum designed, developed, delivered by folks from the top companies. That's one set of things we're doing. The second set of things we're doing is we realize not everybody can take a year or 9 months to build these skills, even though in the grand scheme of your career of 30 years, the ROE is unbelievable. But people need shorter stints. And so we have a whole set of what we call skill up courses, which are things like generative AI enablement, machine learning ops, software 3.0, and helping people get enabled to participate, right? So those two things I talk about: high value accretion, disproportionate, help people become machine learning engineers and data scientists, participants, supporting actors, being part of the cast, AI enablement through a bunch of smaller courses. So that's the two things that we are doing, and obviously delivered by these sort of hiring managers. Interestingly, we started this about a year or so ago, and this is already 40% of our business. And we are already, I think we are already in the last 1 year, Bala, we've gone from this being 0 to 40%. And we are now possibly the largest live learning platform for machine learning engineers in the US.
Wow, congratulations, man. That's a big statement. Seriously. I was
Yeah, I know.
as you're talking, I have a master's in computer engineering. And one thing I realized when I walk into work is whatever I've learned in college is completely irrelevant. Even back then. So it looks like what you're doing is actually putting universities out of business in some way, right? Because this field,
I wouldn't say putting this. I have a lot of respect for the top universities. I think we are creating a new category of learning, which is company first learning, that is progressive, that is constantly iterative, that is our curriculum is designed to be iterated every month based on what's coming out, right? Because, yesterday's history in this field, right? And so I wouldn't go as far as saying we are going to put universities out of business. They've been around for 500-600 years. They're probably one of the oldest businesses around. It's going to take a lot more than us to put them out of business. But I think we are unlocking a new type of learning, exactly like you said, very focused on what you actually need to learn to do incredibly well at top companies. So it's much more practical, pragmatic, less theoretical and academic.
Okay. So you are not going against, it's not going to be Ryan versus MIT. All right. Just going back to something else you said. So it seems like the world is divided into sort of techno-optimists and techno-pessimists, right? So Mark Anderson, would say the same thing, like what you did. Hey, don't worry, we've heard this over and over again. Every time there's an innovation, people are scared. But every time in history, at least definitely in recent history, technology has only produced more jobs.
Right.
There is a big viral video going around on the other side, like Jon Stewart video just put out about jobs, and which is like, hey, this is all great for you guys who are like, tech bros, but for the rest of the people, it's scary as hell. And also the pace of change. Yes, electricity did put out the guys who were making candles, but it took 50 years, right?
Agreed.
Even Excel took time, so people had time to train. This is like 2 years, right? That seems very short. What do you say to that?
I totally agree. I think that there is a middle ground. I'm not a technology optimist, nor am I a technology pessimist. I try to be a realist, an optimistic realist, right? That's the way I describe myself. And yes, I think my own view is that there's no point talking about it and doing nothing about it, because you can see the writing on the wall, right? In general, I don't like to complain, right? I think that you should act, right? Act on insights. The insight is clear. The writing on the wall is clear. If you are not in AI enabled in the next few years, you run the risk of being redundant, but you have a couple of years. So get on that now, right? That's part one. Part two, I have a lot of appreciation for what is being said around things like people being made redundant. And that is a very, very difficult thing for people to deal with. We don't know how this is going to play out. I don't think anybody knows for sure. So absolutely, there are all these risks that one must be aware of and just be open to, right? Now, my view is that both are likely to happen. There is definitely going to be job losses, and there is going to be job creation at the same time. It is going to be in different areas. So I think at an overall level, there is not going to be less job. There is going to be more. But within that, parts of the market will shrink and parts of the market will expand, right? So I think both will happen. And the reason I'm, whoever I meet, Bala, I tell them one thing: get AI enabled. You want to ride the wave when it crashes onto the sand versus getting washed away by it, right? And don't disregard the fact that, oh, this was not going to affect you. It's not going to make you less or redundant to some extreme. It may make you a little bit more redundant. It may, put you in a position where you need to learn new things. Best to learn them. Best to get AI enabled. Be aware that this has both positive as well as negative implications. Get on the right side. Own your career. We tell people this all the time. Right? You own your career. Act like an owner. See what's happening. There are a lot of amazing platforms. Interview Kickstart include many others, right? Use the time to go and
get AI enabled. That's the takeaway from the...
Yes. Get AI enabled at all costs.
At all costs. Right. And I like the beach and the wave metaphor as well that we put in there.
Yeah, it is a big wave.
Let me ask you a question. If you had a son or daughter graduating, going into college, would you ask them to go to computer science and they ask you for advice, assuming they do?
Number one, I don't have any daughters or sons as yet. I'm hoping to in the future. And number two, if they are my children, they are definitely not going to ask me for advice. They're more likely to come to you, right?
My kids don't
for sure. Right. Or they'll go to my co-founder or the other really, good people that I know. So let's keep that aside. I think they're most likely to go to my wife. Now, that being said, I think there are two schools of thought, and I'll tell you my own answer. One is the common school of thought, which is that hey, software is doing a lot. Go down this path. The other school of thought is the NVIDIA CEO, right? Jensen school of thought, which is that the role of top companies is to create tools that allow us to talk where code is English, right? And so in that world, like, many people are talking about, you don't necessarily need to know how to code. You don't necessarily need to know you can work with the computer in English. So in that world, maybe not. I think in the short term, which is the next, I would say 5, 7, 10 years, I would definitely say do software engineering. And within software, I would be more specific. I would say do machine learning. Because machine learning is where the world is going to be. There's such a huge demand supply mismatch right now that for the next 5, 7 years, you have the ability to make disproportionate wealth. Let me give you a specific example on this and why I keep saying this, Bala. We had a student come to our program last year. He came in, he was already experienced. He already had about 7, 8 years of experience. He was earning slightly short of 300K. He did one of our program, 28-year-old. He went on to get an offer at one of the FANG companies. I won't name it, but one of the FANG companies. He came in with an offer he came in with compensation that was slightly less than 300K. He spent, I think, 6 months with us. And he then went on to get an offer at one of the FANG companies in the ML area. What do you think his compensation went to? He came in at close to 300. He spent 6 months with us.
500?
1.267 million.
Oh, man.
His increment,
wrong job.
his increment was more than you said his absolute compensation would have been. The average increase that we are seeing for people coming out of our course is well over 100K, very often 200-300K. And that is an opportunity that exists for everybody who wants to own their careers and go and work at top companies in these advanced software roles. So if you want the best ROI on your career and you are graduating right now, or you're going to get into university, work towards ML, AI, some of these areas. In general, advanced software is super hot. And that is the real numbers. We see this all the time, right? All the time. We see people getting upward of 500K. People who are in their late 20s.
Sorry.
Bless you. Yeah, I mean, we see it regularly. Yeah. In fact, I tell my co-founder, we're in the wrong business. We should be taking a share of what people are getting. That's going to be far more valuable to us, but we don't think like that. We think ourselves as an education platform, which is why we don't do that. But, and that number is not it's not an outlier. It's not an outlier at all. We have many people who get 300, 400K increment regularly, right? And that is the opportunity of going to top companies. That's an opportunity of working in these areas. That's my response to everybody. It is mind-boggling.
So take away again, upskill yourself, get AI enabled. You better be, riding ahead of the wave and not like be caught.
I'll just augment that a little bit. Up-level yourself. Don't upskill yourself. And I'll tell you the difference. Upskill is going and just learning a skill. Up-level is learning that skill with a view to get to a top company. That is where the gold lies. Right? So we focus on up-leveling and we think that's where the gold lies, not just upskilling.
Fair enough. Not just like learn a skill for its own sake, but, somebody pays for it. It's only of intellectual value to you. Any parting thoughts, Ryan, for entrepreneurs? I mean, you've been through this journey as been 10 years. right? Roughly 10 years.
Yeah.
You've built a successful company, raised a successful round. There are lots of entrepreneurs out there. And, what would you tell them? Any words of advice?
Don't do it. I'm just kidding.
Jensen now. We're going to be $1 trillion company.
Yeah. If only it took just that to build $1 trillion company, I would tattoo it on my head if that was the case. So I think that, many people have written a lot and there are far more sophisticated views on this, right? So let me just state that, and there are amazing books to read on this, but I'll tell you 2 or 3 things that stand out to me from my own lived experience. I think that's the way I would put it. One is, this takes time, right? Building a successful company, being a successful entrepreneur, and I'm only on my way there yet. I haven't reached, I'm just at the start of the journey. It takes a lot of time. It's 10, 20-year game. I think more often than not, I would say it's a repeat business, right? Sometimes you have to do it multiple times to be able to land on something. And there are patterns that you learn over time, right? So one, it takes time. The most valuable skill is persistence, right? That I would say is the most valuable skill that has worked for me. I just don't give up, right? And so that's my biggest learning. It takes time, be persistent, don't give up. It's a repeat game. The second thing that, and I'm going to twist to a commonly thought of, paradigm, invest in great people and relationships. And I'm not saying this loosely, right? Invest deeply, because you can never build a big company by yourself. You are going to have to rise to your level of incompetence very soon. And you can only circumvent that by having really great people around you. But the trick is to invest in that. And on all 3 dimensions. Invest in yourself to keep learning every day and reinventing, up-leveling every day. Second, deeply invest in your team. Good people, good karma lead to great work. And the third, which is the counterintuitive bit, and you'll appreciate this, Bala, given your own background. The fact that you're on the VC side, invest in your co-founding relationship. That is deeply meaningful. My co-founder, Soham, and he's a gem of a person, right? I really hit the jackpot when it came to a wife and a co-founder, right? Best investments I've made. My co-founder and I, we actually have a mentor on board whose primary role is to always make sure that we are very well aligned and we have a very strong relationship. And I think that has served us incredibly well. It's a very open relationship. Be open, invest deeply in relationships, be vulnerable. I think that's an important point. And the third thing that, that I would say is, don't be afraid to be stupid. And I'll tell you what I mean. You cannot underestimate the importance of luck in this journey. So the question you have to ask yourself, if luck is so important, do I throw my hands up in the air and just give up? Or do I find a strategy to put myself in a position to constantly get lucky? And I'll tell you my strategy, and everybody can take their own. It is a 3S strategy. It is stupidity, serendipity, smart. And effectively, you start with something that looks stupid, which is born out of some deep insight or gut feeling. And it's important for it to be stupid, because if it's not stupid, everybody's doing it. You keep doing it. You put yourself in a position to find serendipity and luck, and then you look really smart. So everybody thinks it's smart first, but it's smart last, right? And that's what's happened with our AI business, right? We thought this was a really interesting thing to do. It was counterintuitive. We are ahead of the game. People thought we were silly, to do things like this. We gave ourselves a chance to get really lucky. Serendipity worked to our strength. Now we look incredibly smart, and everybody's talking about the 10 million that we raised in an incredibly tough market and the fact we are consistently profitable. But what now looks very smart started off looking very stupid. And so I think stupidity often leads to serendipity, which often leads to incredible smartness. So don't be afraid to try things that are counterintuitive. I'm using the word stupid for effect, but don't be afraid to think of things that are counterintuitive, because the intuitive stuff everybody does. I mean, these are the 3 things that I would suggest. There are many, many more, but I try to bring it down to just 3 and have fun.
That's a terrific summary. Just one point that Ryan made, in case many of the viewers might not get the reference, was when he immediately said, "Don't do it." That's what Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, said recently in a Stanford GSV when he was asked the question, "Would you do a startup?" And he's actually said that before as well.
Yeah, that's become a meme.
Some-
That's become a meme.
it's become a meme. And only if you've been battle hard and really appreciate what you said, right? It's like every entrepreneur will be like, holy shit, that like, yeah, I get it. That's why you would say that. But just to summarize, then you're saying number one, it's not for the faint-hearted. Don't go for a quick buck. It's going to take you 10, 20 years. If you're not ready to give that, don't start. And number two, invest in relationships, especially a co-founding relationship. And they're going to come back and help you. And number three, which is your 3S, first, be stupid. Don't, try something different. Otherwise, the market would have already done it. And then try to put yourself in a position where luck will catch you. Luck is not going to come and get you if you're sitting in a basement somewhere. You do need to get out there and try to luck to find you, right? And then at the end of it, you'll all look very smart. And you can always later on claim that you thought of all of this, like plan from day zero, which...
Yeah, sometimes you look smart. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much. You've been generous with your time and really appreciate your time. Really enjoyed the interview.
Likewise. Thank you, Bala. And all the best for People+ai. I think it's an incredible initiative. And I look forward to hearing many more of these podcasts. And I, follow all the incredible work that you've been doing. And, it is great to have people like this in the ecosystem, right? Who have been there for some time, for the people who are coming up to look at it and say, okay, these are good role models to try and follow. And so thank you for everything that you've been doing and for being generous and inviting me to this. Thanks a lot.